Hello and welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host Patrick McDonald. This is episode uh 8 at this point of the preseason show. Today's the Knicks episode. I'm here with co-host Sheldon Kaufman. We just did a little brother to New York. Now it's time for the big brother of New York. The New York Knicks. As a Knicks fan, this is maybe the first time that I really am happy to say that I'm a Knicks fan over these past 2 seasons. Even in the 21 season when we were really good, it was still not that fun to be a Knicks fan because it was Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, and then Elfrid Payton. So, anything you got before we get started?
Nope, nothing really. Like you said, New York's the big brother.
So to start last season, 50-32, second in the Eastern Conference. Expected record 53-29. So they underperformed a little bit based off of their point differential. At home, 27-14. On the road, 23-18. You're not winning much at MSG. You're not going to win that much there if you're on the road there. And they're still beating you at home. Really good stuff. Pre-All-Star game, 33-22. Very solid. Post-All-Star game, 17-10. Again, very solid. Versus the Eastern Conference, 35-17. And then versus the West, 15-15. In clutch games, 17-16. In other games, 33-16. Anything here on the record standpoint on the Knicks before we get going?
No, I think you pretty much said it. You're not going to win an MSG for sure. That is the mecca of basketball. One of the best home court advantages, atmospheres in the NBA. So, yeah, they had a really good season. Second in the East. Very good.
Really good season, and the expected record said it could have even been a little bit better. And then, with some of the injury stuff too, it could have been even more impressive. Getting into the overall identity of the team statistically, they had the fifth highest net rating at 4.8, offensive rating 118.2, ranked 7th, defensive rating 113.4, ranked 10th. This was a top 10 unit on both offense and defense. Typically, when we're looking for championship contenders, that is the first thing that you look at is, are you a top 10 unit on offense and defense? The Knicks met both criteria for that this season. Going forward, looking at the offense here, it was a unique identity to say the least on offense. We're gonna get into why that is in the schemes stuff, but 6th in transition offense, they were getting their buckets in transition. Good stuff. In the half court, 7th in pick and roll ball handler efficiency. They ran that pretty well, and then they did it frequently, 6th highest frequency, 79th percentile. Very good stuff running the pick and roll. With their roll men, 28th in pick and roll efficiency. Not very good, but they barely did it. They had the least highest frequency at 30th. 7th percentile still. Interesting, strategy to build their team. Additionally, you go forward, 29th in post-up efficiency, 20th in frequency, so they weren't very good at post-ups. They didn't do it very often. 3rd percentile. Interesting stuff. And then you get into another thing, 23rd in ISO efficiency, not very good, 11th frequency, and then 23rd percentile. So then you start to wonder, how are they a good offense? They were the first in offensive rebounding in the league. Essentially, they're running handoffs and pick and rolls, and they're getting rebounds. It's an interesting way to build an offense, but for the Knicks over the past 2 years, it's been really effective. You have anything on their offense here?
I mean, if we look at just kind of the guys, they had a lot of big guys. OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hardenstein. Even when Josh Hart was on the court, lots of rebounding opportunities. I'm speaking to the offensive rebounds. Um, and then if you look at who they had running those pick and roll, the first pick and roll number that you brought up, Jalen Brunson, one of the best at getting a defender on his back and then getting an and one. I think we saw that a lot what I kind of wrote down as my notes. This is kind of scheme stuff, but I think it they would do set a lot of picks to get their guys with the ball to ISO situations, kind of.
Yeah,
And I think that really worked, especially with Jalen Brunson having that mid range ability, all their guys having the mid range ability, and also the ability to drive and step back for three.
yeah. Speaking of threes, 13th in 3-point percentage, 13th in attempts. They were pretty solid on that standpoint. In pull-ups, they were 6th in attempts and percentage. So a pretty good pull-up 3-point shooting team, and then a solid, maybe probably just that average 3-point shooting team. On the defensive side, like we mentioned, they were 10th ranked, 11th ranked in transition defense. It's pretty solid. 21st in pick and roll defense, 6th highest frequency, 31st percentile. Not great. On the roll side, 12th in roll defense, 6th in frequency, 62nd percentile. They were pretty solid at defending the roll. They were 8th in post-up defense, 24th frequency, 86th percentile. You're not scoring in the post against them very often. And then similar here, 5th in ISO defense, and then 29th percentile or frequency in ISO defense or in possessions defending the isolation, 86th percentile, and then they were 6th in defensive rebounding, so they were at closing possessions at a solid rate. Anything on their defense here?
I think that it really started to pick up when OG Anunoby got traded to the team last year. A known, really good defender. They also had Dante DiVincenzo, who's shown ability to play good defense. Jalen Brunson at times, even though he's one of the weaker defenders, he's also been able to hold his own. They just have really great defenders all around. Josh Hart, and like you said, like we said earlier, the rebounding is just off the charts, or was off the charts last year.
Yeah, it was a ton of extra possessions, and I believe in the Philly series they rebounded like 40% of their misses, and it's like kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Going forward to coaches, scheme stuff, lineups that they typically run. It's Tibbs. He's always going to run a center, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But they would only really run one at a time. They would never run two bigs next to each other. At a lot of the time, it would be Randall and then a center. Never really Randall at the center. And then at the end of the season, this was once Anunoby and Randall were hurt. They ran this one lineup. It was a 4-guard lineup of Brunson, McBride, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and then whatever center, typically Hartenstein. And it would just kind of kill people. The idea is Brunson and then 3-and-D players around him.
Yeah.
And it just kind of really, really works. And we'll get into why that really works, but those were the main lineups that they would run. And I don't expect that to change too much this coming season. Coaching, Tibbs' 5th year as the next head coach. New coach here, new assistant coach, Maurice Cheeks, veteran NBA coach, 23 years of NBA coaching experience. Other than that, this is the same Knicks staff that has been here for almost 3.5, 4 seasons now. So, anything on the coaching standpoint before we go straight to the scheme stuff with the Knicks?
Okay, if we're gonna go to the scheme stuff, I'm gonna wait, but I mean, I guess I would. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till we get to the scheme stuff.
Okay, yeah,
To
we'll
talk
go
about
ahead and start
to
on the
talk
scheme.
about Tibbs.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. What you got on the scheme?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say that he loves to play. He loves to play his guys a lot of minutes.
Yeah,
That's gonna be very interesting with Mikal Bridges in. Um, and then I had transition threes. They like to. I think you alluded to them having a very good transition offense. I think a lot of it was because of the transition threes, finding DiVincenzo during the breaks, finding Josh Hart during the breaks, even OG Anunoby, even Brunson. Um, and then, kind of find your shooters in the quarter if all else fails. Basically, go to your fail-safe Dante DiVincenzo.
yeah,
That's just kind of the stuff I wrote down. And then on defense, they were usually pretty straight up. I saw that they like the blitz screens at times, and a lot of help defense and deflections. That's what I got.
yeah. On the defensive side, we'll start there. With Hartenstein, with Mitchell Robinson, they prefer to drop. At times, they did it in the Cleveland series a couple years ago with Mitchell and Garland. They would blitz the screens.
Or I meant blitz with the wings, not with the centers. But
Yeah, they did
yeah,
it with the center sometimes there too. And then they had to do it a lot versus Maxey in the playoffs. So it's kind of just the thing they bring out for the playoffs
yeah,
mainly. But in the regular season, it's going to be Robinson and a drop. It's going to be Achua and a drop. You know, that's what it's mainly going to be. It's probably going to be different with Achua because he's 6'8". But that is their primary center coverage. They guard pretty much straight up. With Brunson basically always guarding the worst offensive player.
yeah,
Everybody's going to have to fight because sometimes they're playing Josh Hart at the 4 and they are really undersized. Um, and interestingly, they're pretty good generating turnovers, like you said. A lot of it comes with charges. A lot of their guys get in positions for charges, like Brunson's. Basically, he led the league a season ago, and then last season he was second behind Brendan Pajemski. Uh, Other than that, it is a very simple defensive scheme here in New York. And we'll get into some of the stuff that could change this season if they make changes based on the roster, but that generally this is what you can expect from Knicks teams under Tom Thibodeau. On the offensive side, you had alluded to the threes stuff. The reason this offense really works, especially considering the minutes load, is on offense, there is legitimately one guy touching the ball 90% of the time. And when you hear that, that doesn't sound good. But with watching how they run this scheme and this game plan with Brunson, it makes a lot of sense and it does actually work really well. And I think it only works because a lot of the guys have played together. You hear all the talk about the Nova Knicks. Underrated part of that, you would think that Isaiah Hartenstein did play at Villanova with how he worked with these guys. Essentially, Brunson's touching the ball every time. He's passing to open guys or he's scoring. And the way it really works is it's one guy handling all the possessions, so it's one guy dictating your turnovers. And Brunson was very good at limiting turnovers and was effective enough passing the ball to give teammates other opportunities. I think that's why it gives a very good floor for the offense. Even if the overall talent around there isn't great, it allows you to play more defensive guys on the floor. And then, obviously, you have the rebounding stuff. Since other guys aren't doing that much on offense besides cutting and shooting catch-and-shoot shots or one-dribble shots, they have energy to play defense and grab rebounds. So, anything else on scheme before we go forward?
nope,
Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple, minded approach on both sides of the floor. Additionally, any sets that they run, a lot of them are Brunson. If he's off the ball, they are running him into space to get him in an advantageous point to attack, either off the catch or with the screen. Very simple
yep,
stuff. Going forward to their off season, First, we'll start with the draft. They originally had 2 picks in the draft. They ended up trading out of 24 originally and moving back to 26. They also had 25, and then they made a trade with their 26 pick. They traded it for a bunch of second-round picks. They did stick at 25. They picked Peckham Dadet. What do you have on him?
I think he's a great fit with the Knicks. He's kind of that 3-and-D type of player. He was 38% last year from 3. He's a good shooter off the dribble. He can shoot the mid-range well. I think he has the potential to be a really great catch-and-shoot type of guy, which is great for the Knicks. 6'8", 210, so size that can shoot. His weaknesses, he's really young. He's still a teenager. He's only played 3 years professionally, I believe. So really not proven yet, I would say. He struggles to create his own shot. I don't think that's going to matter much. I don't think he's ever going to have there's ever going to be a situation where he's going to need to be able to do that. And he needs to get a little bit better at rebounding and playmaking. I think a lot of that just comes with time in the NBA, though.
Yeah, so when this pick happened, originally I wasn't too high on the pick. Then typically when these rookies are signing, they have their set salary mat point that the first round pick signed. The Knicks had Dadet sign for 85% of that salary point, and I think that was a big reason he went as early as he did in the draft. Because before, I think it had been said that he was probably going to be a second rounder, but I think Leon Rose had drafted him knowing that they could get him at a discounted price for a first round pick, with some of the salary cap restrictions that they were looking like they were going to have to face. So, like you said on Dadet, though, he can shoot. He's probably not NBA ready right now, which is fine because he's not going to really be a key part of this team. He might not even play that much this year. I was seeing that it was possible that he would go overseas, but I think a large reason why he took the salary reduction was because he was promised that he would be kept in the NBA for this season. So, yeah, I don't have much on Dada. I don't think he's going to be a NBA contributor this year. A guy who I do think could be an NBA contributor here, picked at 34th overall, Tyler Kolek from the college is slipping my name.
Marquette.
Marquette, there we go. I believe he was a 4-year player there, or he's at least a multi-year player there.
Yep.
He ended up with a full guaranteed 4-year rookie contract, which will happen sometimes for these early second-round picks. It doesn't always happen, but he ended up with a full 4-year rookie contract. This was a guy I was seeing projected to the Knicks a lot in the late first. Getting him at 34, I think, is a great spot to get him at. Do you have anything on Kolek's game?
Yeah, he's an incredible passer. He led the nation in assists per game, 7.7, just incredible. He's also a good three-point shooter, 38% from 3, and over the years that percentage has gone up, and he's looked even more confident in his shot. He can space the floor well. What I liked in his film was his ability to score off the pick and roll. It seemed like every time there was a pick and roll, he would just get open for 3 and just shoot it, which is, like we said, a lot of what the Knicks like to do. And he can finish around the rim pretty well. His weaknesses, he's not that athletic, and he hasn't really shown an in-between game. He's more of a I'm gonna shoot the 3 or I'm gonna finish down low around the rim. And he's a little bit on the smaller side, so I would just he's obviously like a defense. I wouldn't say liability, but he definitely needs to improve his defense. Just small.
Yeah,
Can't help
so
it.
tell me if you've heard this one before. A late, early second round pick, point guard, left-handed, played multiple years in college, and he struggles with athleticism. But he's a great pick and roll operator. Who does that sound like?
You said left-hander?
It sounds to me like Jalen Brunson.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they did.
I'm terrible with draft knowledge.
I don't think they quite did. I don't think they quite got the next Brunson, but I do think the fact that Brunson did thrive in this system means that Kolek could see similar results in this system. Maybe, I mean, clearly at a lesser rate, but if you're
Yeah, I
looking
think
at,
he's more of a. Oh, sorry.
you go ahead.
I was just saying. I think he's more of a playmaker than
Yeah,
Brunson, but just not nearly as close to the same score. But I like the comparison.
yeah. I mean, Kolek is out there to facilitate the court. And if you look on roster, the Knicks really don't have that. Their backup point guard is McBride, and McBride is more similar to DiVincenzo, where he's a shooter and he can pass just fine. But I think Kolek really brings, he brings a change up to their point guard depth that they didn't have before. And then similarly, like I mentioned, the left-handed stuff, they also have campaign.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to have good veterans around him teaching him the game. He looked really good in Summer League, specifically facilitating. Yeah, I think Kolek could definitely contribute day one, and I think the 4-year deal means the Knicks think he will as well.
Yeah.
Last pick in the draft, they took Ariel Hakporti, signed him to a 2-year deal. Did you get anything on him?
No, I didn't get anything on him. But did they get anyone else in the draft?
No, I believe that was it. Hakporti he's probably just going to be a third or a fourth center for them. It's, it probably won't end up being that much for them, but just felt like mentioning him since he was a drafted player. Other than that, with the Dada and Kolek picks, I do think this was a solid draft. I think it gives the team, at least two guys who could fall into very limited roles. If you would ask them to do that. So I think overall a good draft. If you're ready, we can move forward to the other offseason stuff.
Yeah, I just thought I saw somewhere that they picked this guy from Texas Tech.
McCullough? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed McCullough. Because when you said it, I instantly knew it was McCullough. Yeah, again, another guard.
Yeah.
Scoring guard. He's definitely more of a scorer. I believe he's around 6'4", 6'5", correct?
Yeah, 6'6".
Oh, 6'6", yeah. Maybe not
He's
even... He's more of like a 2-3 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, yeah, kind of a wing. He played guard in college, but I think at the NBA he'll move to the wing more, and that he's just a really good defender and really good cutter.
Yeah, so should really fit into an off-ball role here if they need him to. Good wing depth. And I'll pull up the contract stuff on him.
Maybe he takes that kind of Precious Achua role because he's not really a great three-point shooter. He's pretty inconsistent.
Okay, so it looks to me he signed a 1-year 2-8. Okay. Yeah, maybe he hadn't signed when I had done the pre-draft stuff or the stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, going forward, additions, subtractions, campaign. We had mentioned him, backup, third string point guard, perfectly fine.
Good 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I mean he's what you would hope a fifth guard can bring you in the NBA. Keita Bates-Diop from Brooklyn. I think this is a good one. I think it brings in something that the Knicks had lacked, which was some size that can shoot a little bit. I think in some of the lineups where Achua ended up playing next to other bigs, I think Diop could actually fit better into those lineups. Other than that, I don't see him playing too much unless there's a specialized situation where you need a taller shooter out there. And then we'll get to the big one here, Mikal Bridges. I'll give you the floor on Mikal first.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. Well, we had brought it up before. 31st percentile pick and roll ball handler defense. Mikal comes in and he's probably already the best guy on the team at that. Even though Anunoby's here, I think Mikal's a little bit better, just keeping up with ball handlers. Um, he definitely played at a higher level defensively in Phoenix than he did in Brooklyn, but I would definitely expect him to step up a little bit more on the defensive side here in New York because he won't be asked to do as much on offense as he was in Brooklyn. Um, on the offensive side, he's another shooter, an off-ball shooter, a great cutter. He just kind of fits what the Knicks have always wanted to do around Brunson. Um, yeah, I mean and then obviously the Villanova stuff. I give it an A+.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and one of the main reasons I like it a lot is that now Mikal Bridges doesn't have to be the number one option. I think that he's gonna be better in this role. As I don't know what option he'll be. I kind of like him as the three behind Julius Randle and Brunson.
For
Um,
sure.
but I mean, I think that that 3-point shooting is gonna go up. I think everything's gonna go up. Like you said, he can score from pretty much anywhere. He's a great cutter. I like it a lot. I think it's a great fit. Like you said, he's a defense. He only adds to the defensive talent of this team. And I think the big thing for me to harp on is just that he's not going to be the number one option, and that's a really good thing for him.
Yeah, and also he adds to the biggest weakness of this defense, uh, because a lot of the time DiVincenzo and Hart were having to do a little too much on the defensive side. Like I think they can guard your second and third best players on offense type of guys, but they're not going to. You can't just throw them on Tyrese Maxey and
Yeah.
expect them to do significant damage. I think Bridges actually does help in series like that against your Dame Lillards and against your Tyrese Maxeys. It allows you to do more other things with Anunoby, and I think it should really unlock this defense
Also, Mikal's a guy that can guard 1 through 4.
extremely well. And then you have one of the only guys in the league who can guard 1 through 5 in Anunoby.
Yep.
So I think it is going to be an insane defense. We'll start with the losses first. There's the section I have here of the bench warmers. Mamadou Diakate, bench warmer. Daquan Jeffries, Jacob Toppin, Dwayne Washington, Charlie Brown Jr. You know, none of the.
Jacob Toppin left.
Yeah, his brother went to Indy. I don't know if he followed, but yeah, all these guys they would play in they would play in the blowouts, and that was their role. The guys who did actually mean something. I had written him down, but they've re-signed him since. We'll talk about him in the never mind. We'll talk him in the re-signs. They lost Bogey and the Bridges trade. I don't think it will end up mattering too much because they're not going to need Bogey to fill the role that we had him in last year. They're going to have Randall to do that now. When they brought in Bogey, it was because they probably didn't think Randall was going to be healthy again. So yeah, it is a loss compared to what Bogey gave them last year, but compared to what he was probably going to give the Knicks this year, not super significant. Alec Burks, I mean, he gave us a couple really good playoff games, but I don't know. It's Alec Burks. We brought in Kolek and Campaign. I would hope that can replace what we're going to get out of Alec Burks. Shake Milton, again, a worse version of Alec Burks. And then, do you have anything on those guys first before we get to the big one?
I mean, I think Bogey out of those is the biggest, but I don't think Bogey even touches the floor with the healthy Knicks lineup this year's roster. They're
Yeah.
just really deep. So I mean, I don't think that matters in the grand scheme, especially what you got instead. That really doesn't matter. Burks, like we said in one of the episodes we did,
Or the Heat.
The Heat played his way out of the rotation really last year and came in because the Knicks were so injured during the playoffs, and they were like, oh well. and then he ended up playing really good. It was weird, but I don't think you lose a lot there at all. I
Yeah, the one where
except
you do lose some here, Isaiah Hartenstein. If you look at the advanced numbers for last season, Isaiah Hartenstein, he might have been neck and neck, or he might have been just behind Jalen Brunson in the net rating department. I wouldn't say all of that is Hartenstein. I would say a lot of that is Hartenstein pairing with Brunson. I think uh, a lot of his deficiencies on offense are hidden with Brunson's play style, but he does the combination of him next to Brunson was a factor that it raised the level that both of them could play together with the meshing of their play styles. I think it was a big loss, and that's just on the offensive end. Defensively, he was one of like the four best centers defensively in the NBA last season. It is a big loss, but with some of the guys that they brought in and some of the guys that are already on roster, I think that they can do a decent job to replace most of the production.
yeah, I think the Isaiah Hardenstein loss is like kind of huge. I don't know. They were just a different team when he wasn't on the court. It's kind of weird to say,
Yeah,
but his impact was definitely felt. Also, one of the better offensive rebounders I've seen, like just like watching the games, he would get offensive rebounds, he would get second chance points all the time. I
yeah,
really liked Hardenstein. I also am high on the guy that they had backing him up last year who was injured, Mitchell Robinson. I like Mitchell Robinson a lot. Like you said, I think Hardenstein's a huge loss, but like you said, I think they have the things to kind of soften the blow. I don't think Mitchell Robinson or whoever they try to bring in will be nowhere near as good or as productive Isaiah Hardenstein was last year. But I do think, like you said, they have the kind of pieces already to soften the blow a little bit.
yeah. I When I was considering the losses, I think Robinson brings you everything that Hartenstein brought you on the defensive end and the rebounding side. I think Robinson, at a rate basis, was the best offensive rebounder in the league last year, right?
Yeah,
I don't think you're losing much on that end, but I think Hartenstein was also, like you said, a crazy offensive rebounder. Um, Robinson still protects the rim really well. They were both like extremely mobile out there as well. This was probably the best center rotation in the league last year. Now they just have one really good starter versus having two guys who are really good starters. On the offensive end, I think they bring similar impact, but in a very different way. Hartenstein was more of your high post passer and putback guy. Robinson is a much better roll threat to the rim than Hartenstein is. Um, but you can't run as much offense through him. What do you have to say on that end?
yeah. I think my only knock is that Robinson is so injury prone.
Yeah, he's had his
Like
difficulties.
that's kind of my thing where it's like, because like
And
I think if Mitchell Robinson's healthy, I think he's a great like you said, one of the better center. I think he's a great center, but he just hasn't shown that he can be healthy.
yeah, and then like that being said, like going into the season, Robinson was the starter last year. He got hurt. Hartenstein played at a level that was better than Robinson could have played at.
Yeah.
That's why he got paid his big contract in free agency, and it was a good move for the Thunder. Um, I think they have what it takes. We'll get into it in the next section for sure. They can probably patch up that center play. And it doesn't even have to be the full 29 minutes that Hartenstein played a game. Robinson can probably play a little bit more, and then they only have to patch up, 12 minutes versus patching up, 29 minutes. Uh, as far as extensions, this is the big part of the offseason for the Knicks. Anunoby was a free agent. They re-signed him for a 25% max cap hit, 212 over 5. A lot of the discourse around it is 43 million for Anunoby. I guarantee you this contract is perfectly fine. We'll get into it when Anunoby played the Knicks for 15-3 in the regular season. He's legitimately that good. And you're not going to see he averaged 15 points a game. He has that level of impact on the court. This is an astronomical extension right here. Jalen Brunson, 156 over 4. I had wrote down 21% cap hit. I believe he's currently the 20th, not even 20th highest paid player. He might be sub 30. Anything on Anunoby or Brunson extensions that you got
Great
here?
move. Great moves for the Knicks. Terrible move for Brunson, money-wise. He took a pay cut, right?
Yeah, the number reported was 113, but it wasn't really 113. It was he took one less year on the contract, so there's $40 million right there. He's also guaranteed to get this money now. He would have still had to wait a season.
Oh, okay. Great move for the Knicks. Like you said, I think we saw it in the playoffs when OG Anunoby wasn't on the court. It was not good for the Knicks. I think there was one game where he started off the playoffs scoring 9-10 straight. Some that.
The Knicks in Game 2 of the Pacers series, I think Brunson got hurt in the end of the first quarter. The Knicks were up 5 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the second quarter, going into halftime, they were down 15.
Mm-hmm.
Brunson comes out of the locker room, then they go up 5 points or whatever. So that there's already a 30-point swing there from Brunson being on the court or not. Brunson plays the whole second half. They end up winning the game. Anunoby gets hurt with 2 minutes left. From that point on, the Knicks were 2-0 at that point. Without Anunoby playing for the rest of the series, they had no chance against Indiana.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, even when he was hurt during the regular season, too, the Knicks didn't look like the same team. I mean, He's huge for them. He's defensive menace. He's a lockdown defender. And he's been showing, that he can shoot the three, too. I didn't realize he was that good of a shooter. But 37% from the three, pretty good. Actually, really good. And Brunson, obviously, is their team.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely needed that.
The thing with his point on-off stuff, they don't have another creator, is the real reason why Brunson looks as valuable as he is. It's all him. When he's off the court, they're running DiVincenzo pick and rolls, right? They don't have much else, especially with Randall out. With Randall on, it wouldn't have been DiVincenzo pick and rolls only. But we'll go into the next section here. I had said it before. iHeart had the second highest net rating on the team last year. He's obviously gone. One of the big reasons why I do think there could be, this isn't too big of a deal. OG Anunoby, like we said, he had played 18 Knicks games last year. He had played, I believe, 15 of those with Randall. OG and Randall's net rating together was 15. So you get more of OG and Randall playing together. I think you could see a crazy, it might not matter that Hartenstein's gone. And then if you look back in last year in New York and his Toronto seasons, OG plays really good with other wings on the court, and even specifically with no centers in the lineup, which is important with Hartenstein off, because I think that could mean more Randall at center minutes. especially with this lineup data with OG being really good with Randall. I
How
think
tall is
that
Randall?
6'9"
So,
and
I mean,
250
honestly, bro,
pounds.
uh,
Like
yeah, I don't know.
he's big. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think I like it. I like it. I like it.
I think it's something. I mean, Tibbs has just never done it, which is why I don't know. The lineup data is pointing towards that being something that should at least be experimented. Um, and I'm sure at some point they're going to have to go to it. Maybe in the playoffs they end up going to it. Because then you look, OG at the 4 is still really big positionally, and then that'll get Hart and DiVincenzo in the starting lineup if you need to. Um, yeah, non-Brunson lineup that I really like is Bridges, Dante, Deuce, OG, and Randall, or maybe instead of Deuce, it's Hart. Either way, I think with Randall, Bridges, and OG out there, I think you can really hold up on offense. Maybe it's not a great offensive rating, but the fact that I think that lineup would have a ridiculous defensive rating.
Oh yeah, I like that a lot, actually. And when we get into our predictions for the starting lineup next year, I'll talk about it. But I mean, I have those three starting together: Mikel, OG, and Randall.
Yeah,
Like you said, the defensive upside is astronomical. I think those are three kind of lockdown guys. You, and then,
yeah,
like you said, adding Dante DiVincenzo or Josh Hart to that lineup makes it a big lineup, and just it's gonna be hard to score against that lineup.
yeah. Additionally, one thing that I did pull up from the lineup data, you think about how Hardenstein was used next to Jalen Brunson. It was as a screener and a facilitator in the pick and roll. In lineups with Brunson on the court and without Hardenstein, Randall was the only player to see his assist percentage increase. I think Randall could try to fill in some of the pick and roll man facilitating that Hartenstein did, and I think he could do a really good job of it. Mainly because he is a more skilled player than Hartenstein. Um, Other than that, I don't have too much data points on this team. We can go into some of the what we think the lineups are going to look like. Um,
Yeah,
what
no,
do
I
you
don't
have
have any
here?
data. Okay, so I mean, obviously you have Brunson at point guard. I like Miguel at the shooting guard or Michael, however you say it. I like Bridges. I like Bridges at the shooting guard. We saw a lot of lineups that Brooklyn ran last year with him at the shooting guard, so he's comfortable playing that position. And I think the defensive upside is great for him on a shooting guard. I think that makes it really hard to score on. Small forward, I still think OG Anunoby has to start. Like we harped on how important he is to this team, and I think you have to have him out there on the court. And then Randall at power forward. Randall was hurt a lot last year, at least that I can remember. And if he's healthy, it's gonna be really fun to watch. I like Randall a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when Randall was on the court, they like to initiate him at the offense, kind of in the post.
So
Sometimes,
last season in Brunson's first season with the team, they did a lot through Randall in the first half, but in the second half they ran more through Brunson and the team started playing better.
okay.
This season they did Randall initiating a lot less, but I believe the effectiveness was a little bit better this season when they did do it because Randall was doing it less.
Okay. I was watching a game and they gave it to Randall on the post a good bit. Just kind
Yeah,
of.
because
Um
even like when they're playing Robinson and Hartenstein out there, Randall is being guarded by your second biggest player most of the time,
yeah.
and that's a mismatch most of the time.
Yep. And then
So
I like Mitchell Robinson at center. People forget that he was one of the better rim protectors when he was a healthy player. Um I the biggest thing for him is health. If he's healthy, he's going to be a great center. But who do you got?
yeah, so I had the same lineup. I mean,
Oh,
it
okay.
obviously like every Knicks fan loves DiVincenzo and Hart, but those are your sixth and seventh guys. It's going to be great,
Yeah.
right? That should really help the bench scoring. Um, I think the starting lineup having those four great defenders, like, and Randall doesn't get the rep as a great defender, but when Randall has to guard the bigger guys in the Eastern Conference, he actually does a decent job against them. He did a decent job again in their in-season tournament game against Giannis on defense. He does a good job against these other big guys. In general, I think that lineup with Bridges guarding guards, Anunoby guarding whoever, and then Randall and Robinson getting your big guys, like, good luck scoring. It's going to be tough. And then Brunson's just off ball on
Yep,
your stationary shooter.
I like it. So for their center, their backup center, are they gonna run Achua? Achua as the center, or do you still like him in that power forward kind of role?
See, Achua, when he came into the league, he was supposed to be a spacer. He never became a spacer, so now he's has to kind of play center. And he's not really big enough to run at center sometimes, but he does give a lot of energy. He's a good rebounder. And he can at least shoot it a little bit. I think to start this season, he's going to be running backup center.
Forgot about Jericho Sims. You're not too high on him, are you?
And Knicks fans don't like him, and
No.
I mean, he's just.
I mean, he hasn't shown. I mean, whenever I see him on the court, he's just kind of there.
It's too many
That's why
moments of not looking like he knows what he's doing.
So you like Achua as that backup center?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Tibbs could tap into a little bit with Sims. Like, Tibbs is the center whisperer around the NBA. Like, he's really good at developing centers, so I'm sure he could tap into something. But Tibbs does really like Achua.
I like Achua too.
To start the year, it will be Achua doing that, and I think when Achua's on the court, they're gonna literally play switch everything on screens. Yeah. They did that a lot with Achua playing center this past season, and that's with Josh Hart playing power forward. So, and then, like we mentioned, Randall center lineups. I don't think that's gonna be too big to start the season, but if it's successful in the limited time they run it,
I think anytime a team throws out a small ball lineup, you throw Randall at the center immediately, and run that lineup that you were talking about.
And like, even when you look at what that small ball lineup would be, Randall and OG isn't really that small at the front court at this point in the NBA. It could be a really good lineup. I don't know how much they're going to run it, but I feel like with bringing Achua back and still having the option to run Randall or running Sims, I think they've at least filled in what they needed to do at the minimum at the center position. So, if that's all that we got on the lineup stuff, I mean, I guess we didn't go in the bench. Deuce McBride and DiVincenzo are like kind of the same player.
Yeah, I mean, I think DiVincenzo's better for sure, just because the defense. I think he's a better defender. I think he's a better shooter, and that he makes bigger shots. We saw it in the playoffs last year. I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah, I'll say this: DiVincenzo's definitely the better offensive player. I think.
Deuce is better defensively.
Yeah, I think he's definitely. He might be the best perimeter defender on the team, and that's saying a lot with this team. But again, he's a good stationary shooter. I think DiVincenzo is definitely the better overall shooter.
Yeah, I'm high on Miles McBride. He comes in and makes 2 quick 3-pointers and then just kind of settles into the game. Mm-hmm. Usually was his kind of role. And then, obviously, but Dante DiVincenzo, I don't know. I mean, he was a starter for them last year.
And here's the thing. I think in lineups where those are the two guards playing, I think DiVincenzo does most of the offensive initiating.
Yeah, I don't think Miles McBride is there.
Because I would think a lot of those lineups have Randall in them too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I like that because I don't think McBride's there as a playmaker.
Yeah. I mean, and then Hart will literally play any position for you.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, he's great. He can shoot, defend.
Yeah, those
and
are your
he'll
three main
play.
bench pieces. Good NBA depth. I think those are all like fringe starter caliber players. And honestly, I think they are starting caliber NBA players
Yeah.
on most teams. So yeah, I mean, we can go forward to the team awards and predictions if you're ready.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I think that really all three of these could be anyone. But
Yeah.
you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think Brunson still is the offensive player of the year. The offense runs through Brunson.
Yeah.
He's initiating everything. He's the one getting the pick and rolls. He's the one's getting the buckets. So I think he's still the guy. Defensive player of the year, I think OG. I think last year if you watched Nick games, you saw how important he was, especially defensively. He was a tyrant, just really good. My X factor is Randall. I think Randall needs to stay healthy, and I think he can. I think he's the second best scoring option on this team, and the Knicks made it to the semi conference, or what did they make it to last year?
Conference
Eastern
semifinals 2 years
Conference
in a row. Yeah.
conference semifinals
Yeah.
without Randall, without OG,
Yeah.
without these other guys. Imagine if OG's in there. Imagine if Randall's in there.
Yeah.
It's a
Big
whole
stuff.
different game. I think Randall's the X factor. Even last year, he was in. 2 years ago, he was injuries. If he just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah. So
I think he's the X factor.
I had the same three. I had Brunson offensive, OG defensive, and Randall X factor. The thing with Randall that's gone, and I think with Brunson too, these guys play every game. Similarly with Bridges, now that they brought him in, these guys play every game in the regular season. Randall hasn't really had an injury history. This year when he got hurt, he tore his labrum from falling on his shoulder. He's a guy who's typically really healthy. He hasn't played good in the playoffs. I think a lot of it's been him being overtasked. And I think now that Brunson's clearly the number one guy, I think a lot of those playoff concerns will be, a little bit silenced a little bit. I think the key with Randall is, does he embrace a new defensive role as, if he's out there trying to kick ass on defense, I saw him put up great possessions against Giannis in the regular season last year. I think he can actually be a really good defender in the NBA. He just, over the past couple of years, he's had to do way too much on offense. And I think we're going to see a lot more of his defensive and playmaking game this year if he is willing to do it, for sure.
Like I was talking about with Mikal Bridges, I think Randall not having to be the number one option is huge for Randall and just his whole his whole game. So yeah, that's all I really got to say on that.
And then I have one question on Randall, because I've seen him in trade discussions, obviously, because he's on the Nova Knicks. He's the non-Nova Knick guy.
Yeah.
But he has his contract expiring after the season. If Randall hit the market after this season, which Randall would you be wanting to give more money to? The Julius Randle who puts up, of the past, who's putting up 25 and 10. The team gets a little bit worse when he's off. Doesn't really change when he's off the court, and he has these flashes of inconsistency on defense, or the theoretical Randall, where he's really trying his best on defense and actually kicking ass against a lot of guys and hustling out there and then facilitating the ball, and maybe he only averages 19 a game.
I think if the rebounding numbers are there, then I would rather have that guy. But if he's, I don't know. I mean, 10 rebounds a game is incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And I think that he does kind of take lesser. I don't think he's going to be a 22 per game type of scorer this year.
Yeah.
I think now that they have more options offensively, I think you re-sign him, though, if you can.
Here's the thing. You definitely want to re-sign him because there's nothing else you can do with that cap space. So
yeah.
You want to at least bring the guy back.
Yeah.
I think the better version of Randall is the guy who is out there really trying on defense and using
Yep.
his playmaking abilities the best he can. Basically now we've gotten to the end. Predictions wise, do we think the Knicks got better or do we think they got worse? Do we think they stayed the same?
They 100% got better, in my
I
opinion.
I agree too.
Yeah. I
I don't
think.
think it's astronomical. I think last season we saw the expected record at 53 games. I
Mhm.
think maybe the roster talent is more around 57 now.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Um,
mean, a big thing for me is that OG is going to be healthy, Randall's going to be healthy, and this depth is insane.
mhm.
I mean, DiVincenzo, Hart coming off the bench, McBride coming off the bench, deep. Achua's a good player too, and he's coming off the bench as like your backup center, backup third center maybe. This team's really deep. I think they're gonna make a deep run. I think they're better than last year. I would
I
say
think
they're
so
better than
too.
last year.
I think the thing is just the fit is great with all these
Yeah,
guys. I think maybe you look at the roster and you're like, yeah, they're not really that much better than they are a year ago, but I think the fit is just so great that I think this is going to be, again, a finals contender. I think they would have been a finals contender last year if they were healthy.
yeah, no, 100%.
And that's not to lessen the blow of Hartenstein. I think he's a great player. I just think the Knicks overall still had a really good offseason, and I think they addressed the needs that they had with Hartenstein leaving.
I think their draft class was good too, like you said. I think
Sneaky.
we're both really high on Kolick.
Yeah. Well, you got any other comments before we head out?
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the next episode. Next episode will be the 76ers. Yeah. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald. I'm checking out. Sheldon Kaufman checking out for the day. We'll see you in the next episode.